At Mitsooz, we connect you with artists by going beyond the finished piece and into the story behind it. I'm Starah Dixon, founder of Mitsooz, and these are our studio dialogues, conversations with artists and creators that reveal the process, inspiration, and personal narratives behind their work. Today, we're featuring Andreé Brown, a New York-based contemporary sculptor whose work explores the relationship between natural form and sculptural language through wax, bronze, and porcelain. Her work invites viewers into a quieter form of observation where texture, movement, and memory become part of the experience. And now, without further ado, our studio dialogue with Andreé Brown.
Hi, my name is Andreé Brown, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm a sculptor. I live in New York City. I feel very honored to be considered as part of the team. We're just a founding group of 10 people, and to have all of this detail, attention is really an honor.
Thank you so much for being here. And also just being able to share your experience and everything that comes along with it. So let's start diving in. How did you actually get into your fields? And what's a little bit background into you?
Well, as a child, I always made sculpture, mostly paper mache, and I would paint it. Sometimes I would put photographs on it and make big heads and things like that. Sometimes I would make animals. I realized when it came that time as a teenager, what do you want to do? That I would get the most pleasure out of being in art school. So I only applied to one art school. I got in early decision, which was all sort of a miracle. And while I was at Rhode Island School of Design, I studied three-dimensional design mostly, yeah.
What would you say was your first and earliest experience of sculptures as a whole?
As a child, but then on a more professional level, Rhode Island School of Design, which is chock-full of huge talent. I was just sort of blown away every day just watching people create, which was a great inspiration for me to do it as well.
And how long would you say you've been doing sculptures?
My whole life.
What was do you recollect the first piece that you ever created?
I would say a lion that I made for the Princeton Club, because that's their, what do you say? Their
mascot?
Their mascot, yes. Life size. It took me a really long time. It was kind of silly, but they loved it. So yeah.
That is really, really cool. Okay, so when we go into your process, what does that look like on a busy season for you?
My process. Well, it starts out with me thinking about form, going and exploring. And some of the artist residencies have been in environments that I've never been in before, like grape vineyards or southern France botanical garden. So I saw new forms that I'd never seen before, and that was really inspiring. I take those ideas back to the studio, make cutouts, drawings to just sort of remember what I had seen. They're notes to me, basically. And then I start to build in wax.
Why do you choose to build in wax? Because I do know that you do in 3 different forms.
Yes, but I always start with wax because you can build and reduce form. So I melt wax. When it gets kind of slushy and hard, I remove it and start to build. And when I have a form looks somewhat like my thought process, I'll stop building and then I start to reduce and form. Now, the fun part is that the sculpture itself can take me on its own journey. The original idea can be left behind, which is fine with me. I like to know the sculpture's telling me what to do, and I'm just going along with that. Every day I come in, it's talking to me. It's also telling me this is not working. This is good, but this area, this needs to be developed. This is, so there's a lot of conversation that goes on, and that's the true pleasure for me in the entire process. All of that communicating that goes on. And I usually make a collection all at once, like, for instance, 6 or 12 pieces. They're all happening at the same time because when I can't figure out where to go next on a piece, I put it aside and I go there because That's an easy one. I go there and do that. Then the next day I can come in and that one that I couldn't figure out, oh, then it's obvious what I need to do. A time process. And there's a lot of conversation between all the different pieces. And that's what makes them a group. And then there's always like the odd man out who doesn't go with the group, but they all embrace him. And, it's just all of my fun that I have in the studio.
That does sound like you really do like have fun and also just embrace the changes, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to actually embracing changes, I do know that you're also inspired by forestry. Can you like walk me into that and also just some background on that?
Yes. My first 2 artist residencies were in forests. The first one was in Connecticut, just on some private land. I had a studio there, and then I would just go walking. And then the next one was a national park. So there were actual trails, and that was really fun to go exploring there and to see all the different trees, plants, the development of the forest, who's talking to who. All the trees are talking to each other. So I just go home with ideas like that.
So when you're looking to describe your art as a whole, like what would be 3 words that you would use to describe your artistry?
Organic, nature, plants.
And what would be 3 words that you would say describe you as a person?
Humor, inspired, full of love, I guess.
It definitely comes out, like for sure, especially with the forms that you do love to take too. When you have an off season and you're not feeling very inspired, what do you do to get back into the mode?
Walk in nature. That's the best cure for me, because once I start walking in nature, my mind isn't on anymore. It's just feeling, smelling, embracing, all of those wheels in the mind, and some of it judgmental or destructive or negative, or maybe I'm worried about something. They disappear because I'm in beauty and that takes over.
I will say that even for myself too, it's the same thing where it's kind of like you can just like pause and be, like there's not so much you're always feeling inspired and there's always like something to do, but you could just be. Okay, so what is something that you wish people would ask you about your artwork?
Well, I was really happy that you looked at my work and you understood it, because that's not a given. People can look at my work and they can say, that's not a leaf, or that's not a tree, or that's not a plant. And I don't respond because I'm not going to go there. I mean, it's ridiculous. There are people like that. For instance, I just posted a white oak leaf sculpture. There was a message on Instagram that said, it doesn't look white and it doesn't look like an oak tree. So, but I never respond. It's just really, to me, just amazing that people can't sort of take more time and try to understand the pleasure of being with this sculpture.
And it also kind of like shows a little bit of, in my opinion at least, like lack of creativity too, because even in nature, nothing is always the same standard. So everything always looks different, which is,
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. So with regards to finding a way to like keep peace within your like circle and atmosphere, what are some other things that you do? Like,
well, I have in the last couple of years been making a huge effort to meet other artists and to put old friends aside who aren't necessarily involved in art or have any commitment to being creative. It was more out of obligation that I've been friends with them. And the artists, well, I've never met an artist I didn't like. They just have really interesting conversation. We talk about challenges. We talk about process materials, and it's fun. And I love the idea of supporting another artist, because there's no advantage in any way for me to support them except to make them feel better. So it's no longer the American world. It's just about one human to another. I love that aspect.
With that said, with regards to this being from one human to another, although I know it's not from an artist, I do know that you did have one of your first of many purchases come from Japan. How was that experience for you?
It was really exciting because I study Asian art a lot here in New York City in the museums. Like I go to the Metropolitan Museum, the Japan Society, Asia Society. I'm very moved by Asian art because I think that Asian focus is always to take out the decorative element and give the essential element so that is the message. And that's so extremely beautiful to me. In the US, we can have a lot of art that is number one decorative by color and form and details. It's just a different approach.
So, when it comes to your pieces, what would you want collectors to feel once they see it?
I would like them to have a dialogue with the sculpture where at first it's one thing, which is this form, but then the more time they spend with it, the more they discover all sorts of different characteristics about the piece. Because I certainly do making it. So I hope that translates.
What would you say is something that's an integral part of your process?
The conversation that goes on with the sculpture.
Something that I also do know about you is that you also love to incorporate your background with cooking and also gym. If you can just take me through a daily, your day, like what does that look like?
Well, I only get out of bed because I think about coffee. And if I couldn't have coffee, I probably would never get out of bed. Okay. So all of this, the cooking, the narrative of the book, the creating sculpture, all of these things draw me into the studio because they're all, 5-star pleasure for me.
So it's really about like making your atmosphere and creating like the energy and just going with it, literally going with the flow. So, what is something that you hope your art does legacy wise?
I would like to say, I hope there's a message from Andree in each piece. I also hope that there's variety and surprise, unexpected forms, so that it's continually amusing to look at.
And there was something that I forgot to tap in on. In your own words, can you describe to me, because we did talk about especially the malleability of wax, but if you can talk to me about why you specifically love to work with wax, why you specifically love to work with porcelain and bronze.
Okay, so the wax is the foundation. It allows me to build and then reduce. Also, coming from a jewelry background, I learned about finishing. Finishing is ultra important to me. I use different grades of sandpaper. I polish at the end, and then I pass the piece to have a mold made and cast in a material. And the mold is able to absolutely pick up my print of what I've done. So that aspect is really important to me about the wax. Porcelain provides certain forms, delicacy and simplicity and minimalism. And the bronze is more stable, solid, very beautiful in its own way. I always do a very painterly patina on my bronze, which describes the piece but also gives it depth.
And you did say also before that your pieces, when you turn them around, they can give you a different look. Can you describe that for me, please?
Yeah. So the Japanese taught me that the front is always different than the back, that there's no front and back the same. And they take the back of something, whatever the form is, and make that as important as the front. I love that concept because, we may think, oh, no one's looking there. We don't need to work there. But everything is important to them. And they did teach me that lesson. So with my work, the form just continues around and it's doing something else there. It may be similar in that it's one piece, but it's definitely doing something else.
That's actually really a great way to look at it because every piece means something, and also just every angle also has its own meaning too. So that's really cool. So with that, I actually do have a question before going into my last question. What is a fun fact that you want to share with your audience?
I can't find more pleasure besides my working life than humor. Humor is not necessarily a joke. It's a form or a color or a feeling. I thrive on that. My mother taught me that. She would look at something and burst out laughing. And why is that broom funny? Well, it kind of looks like, something. I don't know. She taught me that we can have a perception about the world which is full of humor as opposed to darkness and negativity. Humor is positive, So I spend a lot of time looking and laughing, I guess.
Which that was actually a really great message too. So it's 2026. What artistic goals at this current time do you feel you want to accomplish in, let's say, 2 to 5 years?
I see that money is really important. I need money to produce the work that I'm making. I've started to use that morning time when I'm working to apply for grants and open calls and things like that, where I can be recognized for the work that I'm doing, because my goals are much bigger now, except that I'm kind of challenged about producing because of limited funds.
That's something I feel you're definitely not going to have a problem with, because we're going to send it out into the atmosphere, and especially because your work genuinely speaks for itself too. So that's something we get to look forward to. And with that, we will close our studio dialogue. And I just want to say thank you so much to you, Andree, for being part of this and being a part of our founding Mitsooz artists, which is basically essentially you're helping shape the vision of everything that we're looking to build out. So
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And with that, bye.
Bye.